And you thought you could live without knowing these? What's up, everybody? I am Alberto Lombardi, and today I want to show you a musical device you need to know both as an improviser and as a music composer. Hit the like button and let's go! Most of modern rock and pop music is written around a key center. So basically, all the chords of the song relate to the same scale. That is the concept of a key center. Usually, the key center is diatonic. That means it is referred to the major scale. Let It Be from the Beatles is in C major, for example. So all the chords and the melody are constructed using the notes of the C major scale. A key center can also be modal if it focuses on a chord different than the one of the key. So not C, but maybe D minor and so on. Sometimes a song can modulate to a different key. Some other times it can do that very briefly, as briefly as just one chord. Now, if that chord is a dominant chord, we have what we call a secondary dominant. Let me show you the progression I just played. We have C, then we have F, then we have D7, G7, and back to C. The D7 chord is not in the key of C like the rest of the chords, but it does sound pertinent with the song. And that's one of the reasons this type of brief modulation occurs quite often and has been categorized, because it sounds so cool. So the two main reasons you need this for is, one, they are very common, so you have to know a way to deal with them if you are playing a solo or just making up a guitar part. Two, if you write music, they are such a useful tool to create interest in a composition. So how do they work? Well, basically, the secondary dominant is just a dominant chord different than the 5 chord of the major scale we're in. If we are in C major, G7 will be the only dominant chord in that key and in that scale, generated from that scale. If you're unfamiliar with these concepts, don't worry, I'm working on a guitar improvisation course that will guide you through all the concepts you need, so stay tuned. Or check if it's available at my website if you're watching from the future, future guys and gals? There are two types of secondary dominants. The ones that resolve to a major chords and the ones that resolve to a minor chord. The first type, resolving to a major chord, you will play its own Mixolydian scale, like in rock and blues songs. Let's take our progression for example, the one I played over. By the way, if you want the backing track to exercise, you can find it at my website. Just check the description for a link. So in this progression, we start with C, and we play the C major scale. We move to F, and we are still in C major. Then we move to D7, and here the modulation happens, and we have the secondary dominant. And we play the D Mixolydian scale. Then we move back to the key center, which is C, of course, with its 5 chord G. And back to C. So we had that brief moment when we switched key. We moved from the C major key we were in and briefly went to G major or D Mixolydian. And that was the secondary dominant resolving into a major chord. Now, let's see the secondary dominant resolving to a minor chord. In our progression, we have A7 resolving to D minor. This is the chorus. And then we have E7 resolving to A minor. In this case, on the 5 chord, the dominant chord, you will play the Phrygian major, which is basically the harmonic minor scale of the chord you are resolving to. So, when you are on A7, you play its Phrygian major, which will be D harmonic minor. And on E7, same thing, you will play E Phrygian major, which is A harmonic minor. All these chords that we checked out, the secondary dominants, A7 and E7 that we just saw, and D7 in the first part, all of these chords are not part of the main key of the song, which is C major, but they all resolve on one of the chords of the progression. Sometimes these chords can even not resolve to the one they're referring to, like the D7 could not lead to the G, could lead, for example, to E flat. So we would have C, go to F, go to D, and then maybe go to E flat. In that case, the D7 chord, we would treat it the same way as it was the 5 chord of a G, so we would play the Mixolydian scale. But then, of course, we would modulate to the next chord. Alright, let me know in the comments if you use these chords or if you learned something new. Please subscribe and activate all notifications with the little bell. It's the only way that you will know when I upload new videos. Alberto Lombardi, ciao!